I need 4 volunteers. And I need 4 people who feel, I need 2 people who feel passionate about one issue and 2 who feel passionate about another issue. You don't have to be way off the hook passionate, but so the first 2 I need, and by the way, you're not going to be asked to make an argument for something or make a strong case or a persuasive case or anything like that. So you don't have to do that. In fact, you may never say a word, but you will be up here the whole class. But you may never say a word, okay? So I need 2 people who feel pretty passionately about the fact that we should curtail immigration into the United States. Like they feel, okay, maybe not passionately, but you feel like, okay, that would be a good idea. And we should do that. And so I need those 2 people. 1, curtail, meaning like you slow it down, or could be cut it off completely, but at least slow it down. Okay. Oh, you feel the opposite way? All right, well, hang on. So I need 2 people who think like, yeah, it's probably a good idea for us if we slow immigration down in the United States. I need 2 people. You don't have to talk. So I need 2 people who think that. Where's Paul? Is Paul here? Is he here today? He might think that. Listen, no, come on, give me 2 people. You don't have to talk at all. You don't even have to know anything about the issue. Dude, 1 guy, and I need someone else. Dude, do you feel that way? Can you do it? No. Does he? You don't have to talk, dude. Do you feel that way? Okay, bro, I got 1 guy. I need somebody else, preferably a woman, but it doesn't really matter. You're on? All right, man, go in the front. And now I need 2 people who feel pretty passionately about the fact that we actually not only should not curtail immigration, we should expand it. We should allow more immigrants into the United States. Dude, 1, have you been up here before? All right, okay. Do you feel really passionately? How passionately do you feel? Like, oh, really? Oh, dude, okay, you too. All right. Hey, are there any brown people that feel like it might be a good idea to curtail immigration? Because usually when I do this, both people are brown or black or something. You feel like that? Wait. No. Anybody? Okay. You feel like that? Like passionately, or like how passionately? Scale of 1 to 10. 7? How passionately do you feel on a scale of 1 to 10? A 7? Can I go? Nah, you know what? I'm gonna go with you. Okay, let me go with her. Okay, I'll bring you up for something. What's your name?
Sierra.
What is it? Sierra. All right, Sierra. I'll bring you up for something else. Okay, so you all come in the back room. Just hang out here for a hot minute. Yep. Yep. I'll introduce you when you come out. Wait, do you have your phones on you? Okay, but you won't be, when you're back here, you won't be able to be on your phones, okay? Like you can't follow the Twitter feed or anything. Okay. All right, so listen. Sierra, is that yours? It's that dude's? Oh, yeah, all right. Okay, listen, man. Here's where we're at, y'all. Ready? Okay, bring it in. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to do something that probably should happen a lot in a college classroom. And it probably should actually happen. I suppose it happens a lot. It just depends on the instructor. But it should probably happen in my classroom more often than it does. I try to take different opposing perspectives on things. But, you know, it's hard, right? It's really difficult to show multiple sides of an issue. And certainly in the amount of time we have, and these things are really complex. But here's what's going to happen. So you got your pro-immigration people think that, hey, we should let more immigrants in. And then you got your two people who are really feeling some kind of way about closing the borders down a little bit. You know, they didn't say it completely, entirely, but we should actually close them down and maybe let fewer immigrants into the United States, okay? So you got these two sides. Yo, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring them out two at a time. I'm going to bring the pro-immigration or the anti-immigration people out first, and I'm going to give them only one side of the argument. And I'm going to try to convince them to change their position. So they're anti-immigration. I'm going to try to get them to be pro-immigration. So I'm going to spend the whole class, when they come out, each time they come out, I'm going to give them one half of an argument. And I'm going to try to move them from here over to here. And then they're going to go in the back room. And I'm going to bring the other two people out. The pro-immigration people, the people that feel like immigration is not a problem. And in fact, we maybe want to expand it. And I'm going to try to get them to change their minds and become anti-immigration. And I'm only going to give them the other half of the arguments, the other half of the data. So the one side's going to get one half, the other side's going to get the other half, and I'm going to see if I can get any of them to completely change their positions. And if I do, if I can get even one of them to change their positions, I want a standing ovation. Because I deserve a standing ovation if I can make that happen. Oh, dude. A bag of cookies, all right? Thanks, bro. I get that. Oh, one cookie? All right, two. You got to give me two. Okay, one for each person. Are we cool on that? So what you're going to witness is me taking, again, half of an argument. Because these things are really complex, and you can cut it in half, and I'm only going to kind of give one, and that's it. Okay, and I'm looking at 6 different dimensions of immigration. And I'll look at undocumented immigration and documented immigration, legal immigration. Dudes, are we cool on that? I think it's awesome. This is the most fun I will have all year, trying to get people to change their perspectives. And this is what it's about, right? It's about thinking. And by the way, you never know what sides of arguments you're getting unless you're doing lots and lots of research. So let me make sure that I'm going to bring out the right people. All right. Okay, I need the anti-folks. You two, right? Okay, don't be, yeah, have a seat. And don't, you can sit there and just relax. I'll be out for you in about 4 minutes or so. Yo, and don't follow the Twitter feed. All right. All right, bro. This is yours. Don't spill it. I'll be in trouble. Okay, what's your name?
Michelle
Michelle what?
Gonzalez,
Where are you from?
Long Island, New York.
Wait, hang on, Michelle Gonzalez? Okay, and where's your family from?
Colombia.
From Colombia? Where in Colombia?
Cali and Medellin.
Oh, yeah? Okay. Michelle?
Thomas.
What is it?
Thomas.
Thomas? And where are you from?
New Jersey.
From where in Jersey?
North.
North Jersey? And where's your family from?
Ancestry or like?
Yeah, your ancestry.
Germany.
Yeah, you're German?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what's up. So this is what we're calling this class. And for volunteers, and okay, we're going to look at immigration today. Okay? And you'll be able to respond to a couple things. Maybe you'll have a question, but you don't have to, right? That's really not. What the most important thing for you all is to listen to what I'm saying and where we're going and that kind of thing, okay? So we're going to look at 6 dimensions, and we're going to start with the labor market, not the economy. So I'm mostly going to talk to you because that's where we're at here. And then right now we're going to look at undocumented immigration, okay? So first thing, take a look at this cartoon. thanks, Jesus, for this food. And Jesus says, de nada. You know what that means. That means, it's nothing, right? Okay? And when we're thinking about the labor market and immigration, in particular undocumented, serious issue for the United States and for our labor market, that we absolutely and fundamentally need undocumented immigrants working here. We need immigrants, but we need undocumented immigrants because they're taking jobs that Americans don't want. I mean, fundamentally, right? Some Americans would take those jobs, but not very many, especially in a labor in an economy like we're in right now. So, as an example of that, so lots of states have kind of tested this out because politicians have to follow the constituents in their states, and sometimes constituents follow the larger politicians or the politicians at different levels who are making arguments about different things. And so Alabama in 2011 passed HB 56, this anti-immigration law. And basically what the law said in this case was everybody in the state who's working, if you want a job, you have to show documentation. And if you don't show documentation, you can't get a job anywhere. And if you give someone a job and they haven't shown documentation, then you could be in big trouble. Second, law enforcement is obligated, according to HB 56 in Alabama, law enforcement is obligated to pull over anybody and check papers of anybody who looks like they're foreign. So that would be you, by the way, Michelle. Not you, because you would pass as just an average white American guy. But you would likely get pulled over and checked out. If you had your papers, that would be fine. No big deal, right? If you didn't have your papers, it could be a problem. There was an example there where they pulled over one of the CEO of, I think it was Mercedes. Mercedes had a plant there, and the CEO was visiting, and he got pulled over, and he didn't have his documentation, and they put him in jail, right? Hauled him in. So, he was German, by the way, just saying. Okay, school enrollment. You can't enroll your children in school if you don't have documentation of residency. So that's this bill. Everybody was happy about, well, not everybody, but the people who thought we should be against immigration were really happy about it because they said, finally, we're going to deal with undocumented immigration because this is a problem. What do you think happened? What do you think happened after they passed the bill? You don't have to answer the question because I said you didn't have to answer the question. So, do you have any thoughts? The question is, what happened after they passed Alabama HB 56? Couldn't tell you? All right, dude. Do you have any idea? All right, well, here's what happened. In 2011, they had 120,000 poultry workers working in some pretty miserable conditions, the poultry industry, if anybody knows about it. And immediately, 60,000 workers fled. In the first year, right before appeal, they lost $10 billion. The state of Alabama. Now, Alabama isn't a particularly wealthy state, but Alabama lost $10 billion. So what do you think happened in Alabama? They repealed it in 1 year. 1 year, my friends, they repealed the bill. So it sounds like this way, we're going to go after undocumented immigration. It's a drain on the labor market. This is a problem. Not thinking that, listen, we have 10 to 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States, and they're doing all sorts of jobs, obviously. They're not just sitting around sleeping. And they're doing things that Americans don't want to do, or else, obviously, they wouldn't be working. And so, okay. Any thoughts? Because I'm done. All right, man. You guys, you all can leave. And send the other two out. Thank you. And you'll be coming back in a hot minute. Hot minute. All right, y'all. Have a seat. Your names.
I'm Khalid.
What is it?
Khalid.
Khalid? Where's your family from?
Palestine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I
Yeah.
remember. Oh, yeah, you were up here with the Jewish dude.
That's
All
right.
right. Hugging and stuff. Oh, getting all hugging.
Yeah.
All right, man. And you?
I'm Camilla.
Camilla?
Yes.
Where's your family from?
Colombia.
From Colombia, too. Damn, where in Colombia?
Medellin.
Medellin. All these Medellin people. All right, man. Well, listen. We're going to talk about the labor market. And, again, we're talking about immigration. And I want to just give you all some facts and a few ideas. And right now, we're not talking about the economy. We'll talk about that later. Right now, we're talking about the labor market. And I'm going to really focus on undocumented immigration. So first, listen. While it is true that undocumented immigrants do many things, and often many things that Americans, native-born Americans, or documented Americans, or legalized Americans and all don't want to do, it is also true that undocumented immigration costs us a lot of money. So this Federation for Immigration Reform Law Institute, which is, obviously they have a certain kind of agenda, but they ran the numbers. I looked at the numbers. The numbers seem to make a lot of sense. Their calculation is about a 6-to-1 ratio, that this is how much undocumented immigration costs the United States every year, $116 billion, for a wide range of things that happen as a result of undocumented immigrants being here. And this is approximately how much we bring in each year in taxes from people who are undocumented. Because undocumented people do pay taxes. Okay? So even the Office of Management and Budget estimated that at the very least, this number is $50 billion. So even if these people, because they have an axe to grind, even if these people here kind of maybe found ways to inflate the number a little bit, because people do, right? People inflate the numbers. I mean, this is how we roll. That the Office of Management and Budget, which are these bureaucrats that are sitting in windowless rooms, well, okay, maybe they have some windows, but they're sitting in windowless rooms and rooms trying to get correct numbers, and they're still saying $50 billion. So that's from a 6-to-1 ratio to maybe like a 2.5-to-1 ratio. And that's a lot. It costs us a lot of money. Okay? And here's just an example of that. 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. Many people have gone home recently, so nobody doesn't really know what those numbers are. But just ICE. And so if we look at immigration and customs enforcement, that's what ICE is. So in border control, in 2003 it was $9.2 billion is what it cost us. Now $18 billion in 2013, in 2016 $20 billion. That's a lot of money to police the borders, to make sure that people are coming into the borders who ought to be coming into the borders, to make sure that people are safe, right? Because you don't know who's coming in the borders, and this is a big issue. And President Trump has made, a big issue around that. Here's another one related to the economy. Wage depression. Dudes, I get that undocumented workers are willing to do jobs that many Americans don't want to do, but undocumented workers also suppress wages. Because when somebody is willing to come in, who's really maybe on the edge, and they're here without documentation, they're here, they don't know if they're going to get picked up and sent home, and there are all sorts of things. They're going to take any job for any price. You can come along and say, listen, come cut my lawn, I'll pay you $2. Well, the $2 might be what they need to eat that day. So they're going to do it for $2. And I should be paying someone else $25, but if they have nothing else, no other alternatives, they're going to do it. That's wage depression. And look, just right here, look at our productivity in the United States, how it's gone up. Since this is 1947, watch productivity. It just keeps going up. Look at average hourly compensation, average hourly wages. And all those profits right there, they're not going to workers. They're going to the owners of capital. And so undocumented immigrants are contributing to low wages, like the people that, clean these rooms every night. They don't make much money, y'all, right? You don't have to go very far outside of State College to see the kind of money that people aren't making. So here, this is cute. Roses are red, tacos are enjoyable. Don't blame a Mexican just because you're unemployable. Listen, that's cute, right? But here's the reality. It's funny, right? It's kind of funny. It is funny. It's kind of funny, exactly. All right. Here's the problem. You can't compete with slavery, okay? Don't blame a slave because you can't find a job. You can't compete with slavery. Free labor is free labor. So the conditions under which many undocumented peoples work are not particularly different from slave labor. So do you have any questions for me at all?
I mean, so what are we exactly supposed to talk about, from what we saw right now?
No, nothing really. I'm
Okay,
just
then.
feeding you
questions.
information. We good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Can you send the next? Do you no questions? Wait, what's your name again?
Camilla.
Camilla.
Khalil.
Khalil. Okay, cool, man. Send the next two out if you could. Thanks, y'all. Dudes, how'd I do? Are you confused? Because you're doing this too, right? Are you confused? Right? You see what I did right there, right? You got it? So if you're not confused, then Matt, you'll have it. Yeah, have a seat. Hang on. So if you're not confused, then I didn't do a good job. So I'm going to have to work a little harder, right? Okay. Wait, hang on. Don't look at that. Okay. Wait. Hang on. Okay. All right, you ready? Here we go. We're going to go with ownership and racism, y'all, right? So remember, y'all, these are the people who are less open to having more immigrants in the United States. Okay? More, got it? You're thinking like opening the borders wide open is probably not a very good idea. And not only opening them wide open, but actually closing them would probably be a good idea. Okay? So here we go. Ownership. First off, take a look at that. There we are. Look at the United States and Mexico. This is all North America. By the way, keep in mind, this is all North America here. Mexico, U.S., Canada. Do you see a border there? See a border? Bro, you see a border? Wait, what's your name again? Tom and Michelle. Yeah? I don't see a border either. And if I had to guess, God doesn't see a border either. Because God didn't put a border there. Human beings put a border there. And assuming that God sees, I think she sees. I don't know. We think she sees. We imagine that she does, but I don't know. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she's like a bat or something that just has sonar. I don't know. Okay? So if that's the case, who's illegal here? We're talking about undocumented or illegal immigrants, right? Who makes the law? Human beings make the law. Right? Human beings make these decisions. People come into a particular land, they establish ownership in that land, and then they say, okay, now we're going to start making laws. Who gives you the right to make the laws? So opening immigration, closing, maybe there should be no borders. Look, God, those of you who believe in God, do you believe in God? Yeah. More or less? Do you believe in God, bro? No? Oh, dude. Okay, but pretend you do for a hot minute, all right? Is your grandmother watching the stream? Does she know you're an atheist? Are you an atheist? All right, okay. Does your family know? Oh, okay, good. All right. Well, all right, forget about this guy. Let me talk to you for a second. Because he's a heathen, so we don't even, whatever. Just drink your heathen drink right there, pal. It's probably has heathen hooch in it too, right? Okay, got you. So listen. God didn't create the borders, my friend. Human beings create these borders. And then we do all sorts of things that we want to do with the borders. And what does that mean? Really, think about that. So take a look, just as this. It's time, here's this loudmouth sort of American guy. It's time to reclaim America from illegal immigrants. The Native American is saying, I'll help you pack. Who's illegal? Who's not illegal? Come on, I'll help you pack, because this is our land, actually. It's not your land. So he's saying, hey, these guys right here who crossed over the border from here, well, the Europeans come over here. We have a genocide, the longest lasting, most extensive genocide in human history, actually. We put borders up here, and then we decide who is not legal. But wait, take a look at it from their perspective. It's like the Americans are legal. The Europeans are illegal. Right? Well, here's another way to look at it. These are all European criminals. Trespassers, thieves, slavers, genocidal racists. Yesterday was Columbus Day in the United States, or Indigenous Peoples Day. Or whatever you want to call Columbus. But, what are we celebrating Columbus Day? I guess because the Italians wanted that. But white supremacists. So think about that, right? Who's right? Who really owns the land? Who has the right to say who's on? Maybe really, in fairness, the first peoples who are here, the indigenous peoples, they have a right to write the laws and decide who is and is not or should not be on the list. Any questions? For me? Do you have a question? Anything you want to say for yourselves? What's that? You can talk about anything. No, related to this, though. Question, comment. Do you want to make a comment? Want to make a rebuttal? About this? Nah, about their borders, yeah. About what I said about God. Not the God thing, dude. I don't need an argument against God. No, do you want to make an argument against, say something that would undermine what I just said? Make a comment, please do, man.
So
Are you on?
I am not against open borders totally. I am for the kind of like what's the word? Like restriction of borders to
restriction.
the point so we
Got
know
it.
who's coming into the country. So we don't. I understand that we have asylum seekers, and I understand that there are people that are coming here that are seeking help because of wars and drugs, like coming from Syria, coming from Mexico. I understand that, but what I'm totally not okay is with just open borders, let everyone, whoever in, because it's in a gray area of where you're going to get the occasional drug dealer, the murderer, the rapist. I'm not saying like everyone is that, but I'm saying every now and then you're going to get it. Take a look at England, take a look at Germany. They have not a problem necessarily, but it's becoming a thing in the news where that is becoming a weekly thing that happens. So,
All right, dude, I'm going to respond to you. I'm going to respond to that. I have a perfect. Okay, so, but you're not into fully open borders, and nor may I guess that you're not into even doubling the number of immigrants that we're bringing in, or tripling or quadrupling. Wouldn't be open borders, but we could bring a lot more. We could bring 5 times as much people who want to come here, but you wouldn't support that, I assume. Not without careful.
I'm okay with if we can vet them and get them in quicker, because I know if you want to come to America from Mexico, I think the process is like 13 years, give or take,
got you.
to get documentation, and I know that's a long time. If we can find a way to get that faster, vet them faster, and background check them faster, I am completely okay with them coming
All right.
here. I'm just not okay with how people are like, open borders, let anyone come in.
All
That's
right.
where I'm like,
Okay, you got anything to say?
No, I agree with him.
All right, man. Okay, then why don't you all get out of here and send the other folks out. I'll be back in a hot minute. Thanks, by the way. Thanks for your comments. Wait till you hear this. Wait till you see where I go with these guys. All right, man. Have a seat. Okay, so here's the deal. We're going to talk about ownership and racism. So a lot of activists make the comment and the statement that people who are, that Europeans are not the rightful owners. The rightful owners of the land are the indigenous peoples who are on the land. And so therefore the indigenous peoples ought to have the opportunity to start making laws in the United States. And they should have the opportunity to say who comes and who goes, and which Europeans should be allowed to stay here, and which Europeans actually maybe should get sent home, and one thing after another, right? You've heard those arguments? Got it? Okay, so here's the problem. Who's the actual rightful owners of the land? Honestly. I mean, how far do you want to go back, right? Like, who is the indigenous peoples in the Americas were pushing each other off land. They were engaged in wars and battles with each other and moving
But that doesn't
tribes.
really mean anything. Every place is engaged in wars and battles.
Yeah, exactly. So where do we want to go? So if we just decide, okay, we're going to start right here in the United States, and we're going to say, hey, Americans, because you came and you committed genocide here and you pushed the indigenous peoples off, and you took over the land and you conquered it, and you placed your flag here and said, we now own this. And you all, now everybody who's like, south of this border that we create between the U.S. and Mexico, you all, if you cross over that without our permission, you're illegal. It's like, who gives us the right to say that? Well, who gives us the right is, at some point in time, somebody owns the land. And you can argue about this in perpetuity and forever and always, but someone's going to own the land, someone's going to be in charge of the land, and someone's going to create a nation state, and then someone has to take responsibility for the legalities that happen in that nation state. So, for example, this is what the United States looked like back in pre-Columbian times. So, these are the areas as best we can figure out, because obviously the indigenous peoples did not draw this map. Native Americans didn't draw the map. They didn't even necessarily see that. It was only after people started having sort of the larger vision that people put this together. But all right, so these territories are moving back and forth. constantly, right? All the borders. And so they're battling just like everybody else is battling. Why suddenly is it a problem that the United States exists and we put borders up and we pass laws and we say, now we're going to decide who comes and goes? Like, why is that inherently a problem? So here, this is 1700s in Europe, in the year 1700. This is not what it looks like today. But there are people who, in some of these regions, who are battling with each other because they want to go back to these maps. They're like, no, the rightful owners of this land in this particular region, say like right here in Moldavia, are the Moldavians, and this is us. And so we should not be controlled by somebody else. And so this is our responsibility, our right to be the controllers of our own destiny. It's like, listen, how far do we want to go? Like, what do we want to battle? And one of my greatest concerns is there are conflicts taking place all over the world. Wars taking place. 9 of the top 10 conflicts, meaning the most violent and bloody conflicts, long-lasting, deep, entrenched, etc. 9 of the 10 are arguing about land. One group of people that no longer has ownership of the land, sometimes going back over 100 years, one group of people decides, hey, my ancestors are the owners of this land. They get some guns and their weapons, and then they start going after the people who live on the land. It's like this could happen in the United States. And by the way, over 60 countries in the world today, Donald Trump is no more of a mean-spirited ingrate than are the people in those 60 other countries who have built fences. So 9 of 10 conflicts, this could be us. Like, let's stop arguing about who is and who isn't. The United States now controls the borders. This is the United States, and we control the borders. And that's it. And we need to pass laws, and we need to have some kind of understanding about who can and can't go. Do you have any questions?
Well, like, I just want to say, like, if you're going to take it back to that every country is always fighting and, like, there's always someone who says that their ancestors are supposed to, like, be the owners of this land or everything, like, that can just keep going on all the time. So, like, all I would say is when it comes to the fact of immigration, or at least here in the United States, would be that since there was already a lot of like, genocide and everything, like you mentioned, for the Native Americans, that the only thing that you can really do now is just, like, treat them with, like, some sort of respect, or at least give them a little more help than they can because for all the damage that you gave them.
Listen, but Mexico, there's a whole Mexican movement that says, you know, all of the southwest of the United States is actually part of Mexico. And so they're going around putting
And that's why there
flag.
should be open immigration. If they want to go back in there, they should.
Okay, but open immigration then creates a lot of other problems.
Well, I'm not saying just let anyone in. Like, of course, they have to be vetted and everything, but, like, it shouldn't be to the extent where, like, it's impossible to go through.
But you understand if it's not difficult, if it's not difficult.
I mean, it's already really difficult right now, like, to begin with.
Dude, but there's a good part of that. You understand the positive of that. It's like you can't just have people coming and going and creating their own laws, right? It's sort of like Palestinians. When I remember once I was in the middle of an argument. I was in Jerusalem with this Israeli Jewish guy and this Arab Israeli guy, and they were arguing about Israel and Palestine. And the one dude went back to like the year 1320 or something. And the other guy trumps him, goes back to the year like 750. And the other guy went into BC. And I'm like, dude, stop already.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it can keep happening over
exactly.
and over and
so,
over again.
Therefore, just stop, put the borders down, and the U.S. laws are the laws that control things. And whatever we decide to do, we decide to do.
Like, of course, like, if they come, like, when immigration, like, happens, like, most of the immigration that does occur, and, like, for the Mexicans that say that, like, if this part of the Southwest that actually is their home, they're going to come here, and I'm pretty sure they'd follow the laws. They wouldn't just come back and, like, do Mexican laws. They just want their home.
Yeah, okay.
That's all it is.
Sure, everybody says that. Do you have a comment? Question? All right, man. Send the other two out. Wait, but before you do, hang on. I'll come. Just go out there. I'll come get you in a second. I'll get the other two people in a second. Don't talk, by the way, back there, y'all. Hey, man. How am I doing? How many think I'm basically 50-50? I'm being fair in my two arguments. Like, you know what I mean? Because it's hard to be completely, I may be a little more persuasive one way or the other, but I'm trying to be really, really fair and as strong in both arguments as I can. How many feel like I'm being basically 50-50 or as close as I'm going to get? How many feel that I'm more pro-immigration than anti-immigration? How many feel I'm more anti-immigration than pro-immigration? How many are sleeping? Dude, how can you be sleeping? You're not sleeping, are you, bro? You were? Dude, keep this guy awake right here. Damn, dog. Dude. All right, man, here we go. Let's go. No. Just the curtail immigration people. All right, we're going to talk about the economy. Have you been to Colombia?
I go every year.
Oh, you go every year? So do I, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not even Colombian. Can you believe it? All right, man, so listen. One of the issues with immigrants that we have to think about, all right. One of the issues with immigrants that we have to think about is growth. Growth as a society, right? Because every society is trying to grow. We're trying to produce more than we consume. We're trying to sell more to other countries than we buy from other countries, right? Because that's how you grow your economy. And you want to, you don't want to have you want to trade surplus, not a trade deficit, and so on. And immigrants are essential not only to help us grow, to help us the lower paying jobs, but also help us at the higher paying jobs. And immigration has been key and crucial. And one of the reasons that people argue for much more open immigration policies is simply the amount of money that we could earn by having highly skilled and knowledgeable immigrants in the United States, and certainly our ability to keep up with China. So a couple of ways are green cards and H-1B visas. Do you know what H-1Bs are? Yeah, the visas to come over here for highly skilled work, okay? So there are visas, if you're going to get a visa to work in the United States, almost across the board, you're not going to get a visa to come here and work at McDonald's. Like, that's not how it's going to roll, right? You can come here without documents and work at McDonald's, maybe, if you can. Well, you're going to have to borrow or buy some documents. But the H-1B is a visa for people who are going to take a temporary job, not a permanent job, a temporary job and a highly skilled job, some aspect of the employment sector, right, that actually can't be filled, for which there are not enough workers in the United States to fill those jobs that are highly skilled, in the sense that does it make sense? So, about 800,000 to 1 million H-1Bs every year, about 12 million green cards. So people have green cards, and they don't necessarily have to stay here, but they have to continue to come back and forth to the United States. In the H-1Bs, 70% are tech jobs, 7% are healthcare, 9% are education, and this is real. Like, if you're following Brexit right now, and the fact that the UK is trying to sever its ties with the EU, if you've heard this term Brexit, what's happening is the UK is trying to remove itself from all of the confines or constraints of the European Union. But right now, one thing that's happening is the healthcare sector in the UK is absolutely being demolished. They're short already. I think I just read the other day, they're already short like 40,000 nurses. And they're anticipated to be short 140,000 nurses. Right, and like something like 20 or 30,000 doctors, MDities, right? It's just amazingly problematic. Same in the United States. People make the argument that Silicon Valley, dudes, like your phones right here, all the technology we're using in this classroom, all the apps on your phones, the computers, self-driving cars, one thing after another, all of that has been birthed out of Silicon Valley and has been birthed out of immigrants and H-1B visas who fundamentally were important, bringing their skills to bear on the high-tech sector to create all of this immense wealth in the United States. So all you got to do is walk through Silicon Valley. Just go in some of the companies and see who's in there. A very high level, disproportionate number of black and brown people, particularly brown people. So the future growth of the tech field is anticipated to be explosive and at warp speed. And my friends, you may think that, hey, you have skills. I'm getting an engineering degree from Penn State, and I'm highly skilled. I'm an electrical engineer, and I'm going to be pretty good. But guess what? I don't care who you are, but I'll bet I can go to India, or I bet I can go to China, and I bet it wouldn't take me very long to find 100 people who are way smarter than you are. And they'll work for a little bit less than you, and they'll do a better job from you, and they'll work longer hours, and they'll complain less, and they'll expect less. And so someone could hire them on an H-1B visa, and you don't benefit, but the economy benefits. The United States benefits. In fact, that's largely what's been happening. And so this is a really, really important thing. And it's estimated that just on undocumented immigrants, this scholarly article put this together. This is an estimate of how much we would grow if all undocumented immigrants were given citizenship tomorrow, over the next 10 years. $1.4 trillion. That's pretty serious. Just step up to the front, put your handprint in this little monitor, swear allegiance to the flag, and you are now a citizen of the United States, all 10 to 11 million of you. And over the course of the next 10 years, the estimate of this one particular study, which again, I looked at it, it seemed pretty sound to me, was we'd grow by $1.4 trillion. That's hard to argue with, because you're looking at larger society at play. Do you have any questions you want to ask? Do you have any questions? None? Any?
Does that go into account of housing and stuff?
Everything. Building, investing their money in places. Now people send money back home to their families. Like in Colombia. I know lots of Colombians who are here, and some who are here without documents, and they're sending money back to Colombia and so on. So it's not, just invest it here. Build your homes here. We need you here. Build up our communities here. All right, man. Okay, next slide. And next people. Go ahead. Thanks, y'all. Dudes. How am I doing, man? Dude. White guy in the Penn State shirt. How am I doing, dude? I'm killing it, right? I don't even know what I believe anymore. All right, have a seat. All right, man, we're going to talk about the wait, where are we at here? Oh, the economy. Oh, my God. Yes. Okay, so here's the deal. We know that immigration is good for the economy, okay? It is. We know that we bring highly skilled immigrants in. We bring low-skilled immigrants in. They do work Americans don't want to do. We bring highly skilled immigrants in. They do work, very positive work, important work, right? They help build the tech sector. They do all sorts of things. But here's the problem. Those are really quick fixes. And if we don't actually build our education system up so that we can supply the number of workers that we need to supply in order to grow our economy, like more engineers and this sort of thing, then we're doing a disservice for ourselves in a serious way. So here's the PISA scores. These are average scores for math, reading, and science. Look where the United States is in math. Dude, we're just barely above Croatia, for crying out loud. Look at Vietnam. Look at some of the countries that are Estonia, Slovenia. Dude, where's Estonia? Some of you are asking, where's Estonia? Macau. Look at this. And then let's come down. Malta, Latvia. Then here's the United States. Science. Look at science. Look at where we're at here. Come on. Listen, what we need to do, instead of relying on undocumented workers, especially highly skilled ones, highly trained ones with advanced degrees in science and math and so on to move us forward in technology. What we really need to do is build our education system up so we can do it from within. Right now, we're doing these quick fix Band-Aid approaches, and they don't work. They do work for right now, but it's not going to help us down the road. It's very destabilizing. So there's one thing, right? Immigration, more open immigration is a problem because we're relying on foreigners to do the work that we ought to be doing. All right, man. So take a look at this. Also, it's a problem because there's this thing that happens. It's called brain drain. And brain drain happens is when you take the best brains out of a country and you put them in another country. And so one of the issues is that when we are already a very advanced society. And we do quite well for ourselves. But there are many countries which really cannot afford to give up their more advanced people. Which is why, for example, the 2 young women in Haiti, we fund their college education in Social 119. And part of the agreement there is to say, look, when you become a lawyer and when you become a doctor, you got to stay in Haiti. You're not coming to the United States. We're going to fund your education, but you are going to stay there because we are investing in Haiti. So just look at India, for example. 70% of Indians in the United States between 25 and 64 have BA degrees or BS degrees. And in home countries, only 8% of Indians. These Indians ought to be going back home. Come on, man, like Colombians, right? Don't come here and get educated. Go back to Colombia. Colombia needs you. Right? Colombia is fairly educated, but look at even Japan. Look at Korea. So this is a problem. This is called brain drain, and it is a real serious issue. Next thing, one of the problems when we look at the economy is that the economy actually spends a lot of money on security issues when we have workers, because undocumented workers are going to be living in places where they create problems. So this is in France, right? This is in a place called Calais. Calais, I think it's Calais. Yeah. Anyway, so this is a problem. I'm not going to go into that much more. Do you have any questions, comments? Build from within, and do not rely on immigrants. Like Palestinians, y'all, right? Palestinians are highly educated. In Palestinian, you know what? Palestinians in Gaza, one of the highest education levels of anywhere in the world, because the unemployment rate in Gaza is so high. There's like nothing to do except go back to school. So I have all these friends in Gaza, Palestinian friends in Gaza, who have multiple master's degrees, who have PhD degrees. They get them in Gaza. I mean, there are all these programs, but they can't get jobs. And so they just go back and go to school. Because it's like, well, they want to learn, they want to do something, so they keep doing that. It's like, well, it's like when Palestinians come here. Go back home and apply the knowledge.
That doesn't really work that easily.
Okay, don't use that as an example, because the Israelis have...
No, I'm not talking about the Palestinians. I'm just talking about like the topic you were talking about right now, about just going home and making it easier. Because like even like in most countries, even like in Jordan, or let's say you became an engineer or something, if you wanted to work as an engineer here in the States, it's so much more high paying than if you wanted to go to Jordan, and every human being thinks about themselves.
Right, but that's one of the reasons that keeps people in a place like the United States. But that's one of the reasons for brain drain. But it's also one of the reasons why, you run into problems, you run into this. It's like, look, India, one of the best engineering schools in the world is in India. If you can graduate from that school, that's the school you want to go to, right? There are other schools. I was in St. Petersburg, Russia, in May, and I went to the Polytechnic University with a really, really sweet engineering department, really sweet. And you can go through there speaking English, and the cost for room and board. And Russia is very highly trained in math and science, right? So the cost for room and board is like $8,000 a year to go to what is actually the number 2 engineering school in all of Russia. So it's like, why not go there? But anyway, you come here, you go there. It's just better here. That's why people stay. And we create problems back home. And that's one of the reasons, the things that keep some countries poor. Okay, any other comments or questions?
You said that having them work here is going to create problems in the future. What are the problems?
What are the problems?
Yes.
When people stay here and work?
Yes.
Well, what the problem is, if we rely on immigrants to come and do a lot of the high-paying jobs? Because what we have is a society of uneducated adults. Like Americans who can't even do simple mathematics. And who, I don't like math, I don't like science. It's like, that's why we're in this issue with climate change, for example. Y'all listening to Donald Trump about climate change. You ought to be listening to the scientists with PhDs who've been studying this their whole life, not some knucklehead who doesn't know anything about science. My God. And so, but the Americans are like, oh, I believe in Donald Trump. Motherfucker, what are you talking about? He doesn't know anything. Just like I don't know anything about investing in real estate in New York City. You wouldn't follow me, you'd ask Donald Trump. So you don't ask Donald Trump about climate change. You ask someone who actually knows about it. And so what we have is a society of adults. And you know what I mean? Of which I am one, about many, many things, like investing in real estate in New York City. So we don't want that. That's not a way to build a good society. That's not where you want to be.
Yeah, but I don't think immigration is the root of that problem.
Dude, immigration contributes to it.
It contributes, but
it's a safety valve for us, because what it does is it allows us to bring these immigrants in to do things that we just, what do you want to do? You want to just sit around and play video games on your phones? Fuck, what are you playing video games on your phone, man? Your phone, this phone right here, you can connect. This is a computer, my friends. If all you use it for is Snapchat and Facebook, this is a computer. You can talk to people all over the world. You can develop connections all over the world. You could be partnered with people everywhere in the world instead of, oh, I'm just going to play video games on my phone. Yeah, okay. Come on, man. That's a problem, my friend. You're just allowing people to be idiots.
I still don't think that like immigration is the reason for that. I mean, if you want to just make your education system better, make your education system better. Don't blame people who come here for.
Okay, get out. Send the next person in. All right. Dude, how did I do on that one? I thought I was better on that one, frankly. You don't think so? Oh, you think the other one? Well, the other one's a little more persuasive, though. Okay, hang on. All right, sorry. All right, man. So here we go. We're going to talk about DACA. You know what DACA is? Do you know what DACA is? Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals. So those of you who don't know what DACA is this idea that you get children who come to the United States. They were brought here by their parents against their will. They didn't know that they wanted to come, and they just came. Sometimes they're infants. And is anybody a DACA child? Anybody come to the United States whose parents brought them to the United States without documentation? Anybody in here? Sometimes I have a student. Okay, so the idea becomes, look, they're not responsible for being here, right? And so they should be given a fast track to residency and then citizenship, because like, come on, you come here, you're as American as anybody else. So like this, for example. So recently, when Donald Trump was like pushing, he was going to cut send all the DACA folks home. So Barack Obama, that guy, the previous president, Obama, right? Barack Obama. So there were about 790,000 dreamers that signed up for this program. And the dreamer program said basically, listen, I don't have documentation. I came here as a child. I don't have documentation. I don't know what to do. I'm not responsible for this. I can't go home because I don't even know where home is. I've lived here my whole life. And so what we did in the United States, we said, well, we're going to it wasn't just Obama. These are thoughtful people. We said, hey, you know what? We're going to put this together so that we're going to allow you a fast track to residency or citizenship. But here's what you got to do. You came to the United States under the age of 16. You have to be enrolled in high school or college. You have to at least get a high school education or a GED. And if you aren't enrolled, if you graduate from high school or college, or if you graduate, you have to be in the workforce. You can't be just hanging out. Right? And you can't have come here when you're 18 years old and just like, hey, I want to sign up for a fast track to citizenship. And so if that's you, and if that fits you, and you've never been in trouble with the law on one thing or another, then you can sign up for this program. And Donald Trump had the idea that, oh, this is a really bad program because we have all these people. I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, these people right here, they're Americans. They're as American as anybody else. They may have come when they're 6 months old. They speak English. They may or may not speak Spanish, but they certainly speak English. And they only know U.S. culture. They only know it here. And then imagine them, but certainly imagine someone who's like 18 years old. And we just whisk, like you, for example. Like, let's say you're undocumented, right? You came from Colombia. We just say, oh, no, you got to go home. And we just send you back home. And you go there once a year. But imagine you've never been there. So imagine how that would be. And suddenly we're going to send you back. And so DACA, this deferred action, is really an essential program to open us up to everybody who is eligible for it. Because everybody who is eligible for it ought to have the opportunity to get immediate citizenship.
My dad and cousin did that.
He what?
My dad was 12 when he came here.
He was
and
12?
He got his citizenship just because he was here, and so did my cousin.
And so his parents, so he came, he's an example of that, right? He came against his will. Not against his will. It's not like he was probably holding on to some tree in Medellin or something, but right? He didn't say, hey, I want to go to the U.S. Okay. Any thoughts? Any other questions?
I'm actually for raising the age to 18 for DACA and Dreamers because legally in the United States, you're not considered an adult until you're 18.
Yeah.
So someone could be 17, come over here, and technically under law, they're not an adult, so they cannot be said to have been there for their own actions to their parents. Like your parents, if you're 17, your parents are still mainly responsible for you. So again, with the Dreamers, 16 I think is a little too small. It should be 18. If we're going to treat them like American citizens, it should be 18.
Yeah, if you can go off to war, if you can vote, if you can go kill somebody and with impunity, then okay. Yeah, dude, I was going to make the argument for 18, but I didn't want to push my luck. Okay. All right, cool. All right, send the other two folks back up. This one's kind of low-hanging fruit, honestly, because it's like, come on, man. Okay, you're wondering what I'm going to say now, probably, right? What am I possibly going to say? All right, you know what DACA is?
Yes.
Okay, you got it? They know what it is because I just told them. So they're there, right? Okay, so look, DACA seems like this really cool program because kids come here and they didn't really choose to come here and so on and so forth, right? So we then should give them some kind of fast track to residency or citizenship or something, right? Here's the problem. Basically, it is, okay, these folks, that photo's a little bit harsh. But look, illegality, operating outside the law is operating outside the law. And if I operate outside the law, whether it's me or my parents making the decisions, we as a family are outside the law. And we as a family should be treated the same way. How do you somehow just say, oh no, let's say that you two have a child and you're both from, I don't know, Colombia, right? Columbia Stein, wherever, right? Got it. You're from Mexico and you come up, right? You could both be Mexicans, right? And so you come up and you bring your child and like somehow your child is, we're going to treat your child in some way, this child there should be we should enroll them in DACA because, they didn't choose to be here. Whatever. Like, no. And then what? Your child stays here and you don't stay here and then we got to send you back because you don't belong here, because you're here without documentation. And no, it's not what it is. It just creates a whole reality of confusion that's really troubling and problematic. And it just doesn't make sense. Illegal is illegal. The other side is, or undocumented, yeah. And so the other side is, people say, well, you can't stop, forget about DACA. People say, well, you can't stop immigration. People are going to come and they're going to keep coming no matter what. No, actually you can. Because look, here's the amount, these are the number of just Mexicans apprehended at the border starting in 1992. And here's the most recent data in 2015. And look what happens. As this goes up, this starts to go down. And the more we spend on border agents, the fewer people come. So Border Patrol works. It works. Legality works. Put agents there, stop people from coming, and just say, stop breaking the law. Stop creating a system that is really not for the public good at all. Okay. There you go. Next people.
Wait, I have a question.
You have a question? All right, go ahead.
So you don't think DACA should be in
Wait,
effect?
speak in the mic. What?
So you don't think DACA should be in effect?
No. DACA shouldn't be in effect. No, because you're creating a system in which you are contributing to fundamental illegality. And it's you can't just take certain families. Look, imagine the two of you are married, right? Then you're both undocumented. But hey, but you know what? You're a woman. Okay, we need more women here. We'll just let you stay, but we're going to send you home. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. You just create a system you contribute to a system of deep problems. Do you have a problem with that?
Yes. I mean, like, if you want to go back to the example of my imaginary child.
Nah, we don't want to go back. Go send the next people out. Just Just hang on to your problems. All right. Yeah. After they close, have a seat. That's a really difficult argument to make right there. I don't even know what to think. I mean, that was a hard argument for me to make. I didn't do a very good job with it. But the other side was easier to make. But that was a tough one. All right, y'all, ready? Safety and the public good. Here's what we're going to talk about. Look, first off, number one thing that you need to know. Crime rates. Hands down, immigrants in the United States have the lowest crime rates of any group. Undocumented immigrants and legal immigrants, the lowest of any groups in the U.S., except maybe like Mormons or something. I don't know. But, yeah, maybe Mormons. Okay? So here, take a look at this one. These data are for undocumented immigrants. Undocumented immigrants. This is the Cato Institute, by the way. This is a libertarian think tank. These are like conservative. These are real conservative people, not like Republicans. So if you want to understand who the real conservatives are, then it's libertarian. 40% undocumented immigrants, 40% less likely to be arrested. Legal and undocumented, 47% less likely to be incarcerated. So when like George Bush. No, what's his name? Donald Trump. Yeah. Donald Trump starts making all these arguments about undocumented immigration, and the guy in Iowa, right? It's Iowa, right? Where the undocumented immigrant killed that young woman, that college student. And then, Trump is being this big blowhard about it in the news and so on. Look, this is the reality. So what we ought to be saying is, hey man, listen, yes, sometimes people commit crimes, undocumented people or immigrants, but the reality is the crime rate is far lower than native-born Americans. So let's keep that in mind. Next thing. So here we go, right here. I mean, you can see the numbers. Native-born is red. These are all crimes. Native-born is red. Here's homicide. Here's larceny. So look at that. Undocumented, and then, here's legal. Okay, next one. Past 41 years. I want to read these numbers to you. Foreign born. This is the chance of an American being killed by a terrorist on U.S. soil. Ready? The chance of an American being killed by a terrorist on U.S. soil. If the terrorist is foreign born, it's 1 in 3.64 billion. If the terrorist is born in the United States, it's 1 in 10.9 billion. You're 29 times more likely to be hit by an asteroid than you are to be killed by a terrorist in U.S. soil. So to even talk about this kind of shit like crime, it makes no sense. Like, don't even have the conversation. It's completely irrelevant. Like, why are we talking about this? Why is this an issue? Why is this out there? These numbers tell me that's not an issue at all. And so maybe we ought to think about that. All right, man. Do you have any questions or comments? Because I'm going to run out of time.
Comments. You are more likely to be killed by a white conservative Christian in this country than by any demographic anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
Fact. So I am for like porous borders, but I also recognize
not him though, because he's an atheist. So watch out for him. Go ahead.
But if you're gonna be a conservative, make the argument that we should be afraid of immigrants because they are more scary or they commit more crimes, that's just false. If they commit a crime and get caught, guess what? They don't go to jail. They get deported, and they have a harder time coming back in. White Christian conservative, they're just going to get a slap on the wrist.
I don't know about that. Yeah, I'm not going to say that.
Kavanaugh.
No. Hang on.
What's his name? What's his name that sexually assaulted the girl who was unconscious behind the dumpster? 3 months in prison?
No, wait, hang on. Dude, hang on. Here's what you're doing, though.
I'm going to quote Paul, we could do this all day.
No, hang on. Here's the problem. This is going on YouTube, so I need to... Where am I? Go to yellow. All right, so listen. Here's the problem. You can cite individual statistics like that, and then that's fine. Well, first off, we don't. You're assuming that Kavanaugh is telling the truth, and the woman who accused him of that, his actions, is. You're assuming that he's not telling the truth, and the woman that's accused him of his actions is. And I'm not going to make that assumption. Okay. Also, I can come up with examples where the white Christian guy gets a slap on the wrist, but I can come up with many examples where that's absolutely not the case. The vast majority of examples. More likely would be the difference between black and brown people and white people, but still, I hear you. I'm just not, one case doesn't prove anything. Having said that, go ahead, let me bring in the next folks, and then this will be my last one. Dude, come on, man. You're like clapping for him. Do you know how hard this is for me to go back and forth? I'm like practically schizophrenic right now. All right, so listen. All right, we're going to talk about safety in the public good. Y'all right? First off, let me talk about, we know that immigrants commit less crimes. Undocumented immigrants commit less crimes than native-born Americans, and that documented immigrants commit less crime than native-born Americans, okay? So here are the crimes. It doesn't matter. Look at the yellow. The yellow is undocumented. It doesn't matter that it's lower than the native-born Americans. What matters is that there are crimes. And if they weren't here in the United States, those crimes wouldn't be committed. The larceny ones don't bother me so much, but these bother me, actually. So we've got undocumented workers or people in the United States committing the crime of homicide. That's actually a problem. So a lot of people who have this idea that we should open the borders have this idea that, well, you know, we should do that, and immigrants commit less crime. Yeah, they do, but they still commit crimes. And that's a problem. Each one of these murders is actually a murder of a human being. And when it's a murder of a native-born American, basically you're saying, we're going to let this stranger come into the country and they're going to commit a crime and take the life of somebody. And so when you have, for the social good, as an example, because that's what we're looking at right here, safety in the public good, you know, this is something that Donald Trump just passed, that he's proposing, the Trump administration, that if we have immigrants who are here and they're applying for residency or they're applying for some kind of permanent status in the United States, if they actually have applied for public welfare benefits at some point in the past, they're a really high risk for applying for those benefits in the future. So basically, we're going to make it really difficult for them to have permanent residency. Because look, if you come here and you're not permanent and you're getting some kind of like welfare, which is hard to get, mind you, but nonetheless, if you're getting some kind of benefits, it's like you're going to do that in the future. So like this is for the public good. Like, you know, if you applied for public assistance back then, you're going to apply for it now. Any thoughts? Any questions?
I mean, I'm sure you think, I'm sure you know I think that's bullshit.
You think it's bullshit?
Yeah.
Why would it be bullshit, dude?
Not like the facts, like that's all true, but like,
But
especially
no,
the
but
thing
it
with the
is.
Trump administration, like, just because they got their green cards, they're a part of this country.
No.
So
they
should be able to use the public assistance they need.
No, but these are also people without. There are lots of undocumented people who use certain services. There are services that you can use. Okay? And so it's like, nah, and you're kind of in between. It's like, no, we don't need that. Okay?
Okay.
All right, man. Here we go. Hang on. Just to hold up right there. All right, come on. Man. Okay, can you all stand up? Okay, the two of you, come stand over here. And you can stand up here. Okay. So here's what I want to know. I'm in the middle, so you all are there, right? And I know you're not exactly like way down there, right? But you're there, and this is the fulcrum in the middle. Did I shift your thinking on it, and if so, how much? Would you move at all?
No.
No.
No?
No.
God, you?
I was never actually very extreme in that. I was just thinking like through like personal experiences. That's
Yeah.
why like I decided to go on this side. Of course, like I'm a reasonable person. Like I'm not like gonna say that immigration shouldn't be a thing because that'd be really stupid of me considering I'm like first generation American here. But yeah, like some of the things were like very interesting. Some of them I didn't know, but I still like believe in, you know.
Yeah, so neither of you two were very extreme.
No.
Hey, listen, so you want to know, you know what I did, right? I only gave you one part of an argument, one half, and I gave them the other half. I only gave you one side of the argument, and I gave you one side of the argument. So I was making arguments, different arguments to each of you, seeing if I could get you to switch sides. Obviously, I failed. But let me ask you, to anybody here in the class, would anybody in the class say, oh yeah, if I was standing up there, I would walk a little this way, or I would walk a little this way? Like who would shift a little bit? I don't mean all the way. Who would shift their thinking on this? Anybody? You would? One person? 2? 3? 4? 5? A few? All right, man.
Don't let Sam feel like he failed, guys.
What's that? What's that?
I said don't let them feel that you feel that you failed.
Yeah, I did fail. All right, I'll see you all. See you on Thursday.
Register to vote. Vote in the primaries.
Oh, yeah, don't forget to vote.